and welcome to a very special edition of the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by GeneralsJoes.com with me as your host, Chris, Hasbro Intel Specialist McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80, on this instalment of your absolutely favourite kind of burst for most people. We have managed to kidnap Hasbro's senior product designer, Vala, to discuss his work on the G.I. Joe line and most recently the G.I. Joe Collectors Club figure subscription service 8.0. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this news burst. With the exception of a 3-month internship in 2011, Vala has been a senior product designer boys D&D at Hasbro since 2012 and has worked on a number of brands over that period of time. Of course, we here at the Full Force are only interested in one, and that's my little G.I. Joe. First off, Bobby, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
What the listeners/viewers won't be seeing is your wonderful background. I feel like I'm wasting the opportunity to record the visual aspect that's going on here.
That's all right. Keep it all a secret.
And also the T-shirt. I love that Steel Brigade T-shirt. It's amazing. Whoever made that is a genius.
Hey.
So first off, tell us a little bit how you got into this line of work in the first place. I mean, was toy design always something you wanted to do?
So I kind of fell into toy design by accident. A lot of other toy designers tend to say that also.
Yeah.
I had originally started out wanting to draw comic books. That was like my passion.
Nice.
So I went to school for drawing comic books and thought I was going to be this hotshot comic book illustrator and signing autographs. And once I got out of school, I found out, wow, either I was really bad or the business was really hard to get into.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was a grind. I was going to all the conventions. I was showing my portfolio. And then, because I had student loans like other kids, I had to kind of get a real job. So I was doing a real job and trying to do freelance comic book stuff on the side. And then my buddy was like, hey, my brother works for Hasbro. Why don't you send him some designs? Maybe you could do some work for him.
Nice.
So I got in touch with him. He was on the Transformers brand, and he started giving me some freelance work. And he goes, hey, why don't you come up to Hasbro? We're doing a vendor fair. You can come in and see the place. And I went up there, and as soon as I walked in the door, I was like, this is where I want to work. And of course, I love toys. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me. And I was doing freelance work for Hasbro designers for all different brands, Marvel, G.I. Joe, Transformers, for about a year. And I was like, you know what? I want to do that full time. I want to be in that office. I want to be a part of that culture. So, I kind of had to go back to school and actually got my degree in toy design. So I had to go back, do another 4 years of school. And luckily enough, I kind of got into Hasbro right after school.
Nice.
So kind of did the path a little late, but got here nonetheless. And along the way, I did a couple internships. I was John Warden's intern in 2010. Yeah. And then I was an intern for Marvel the year after that. And then I graduated and then got to Hasbro. And I've been working, I worked on a lot of brands for our exclusives team when I first got to Hasbro. But other than that, I've been on Marvel for the majority of the time and then a short stint on Joe.
Yeah. So you've been doing stuff like the Marvel Legends and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So I handle a bunch of our kid product also, but for Marvel Legends, I did our 12-inch line that we launched, our 3 3/4 line I took over in 2014, and I did our Legends role play, which is like the big kind of prop replicas, which was really awesome.
Those 12-inch Marvel Legends were really cool. I really enjoyed those.
Oh, I'm glad someone did. I love those things. It was so much fun working on them. A lot of reasons why they probably didn't go over big with the fans, but I still loved working on them. So when I hear that people love them, I'm like, yes, someone loved them.
It's just there's a lot of detail in them, and it brings it out a little bit more in that 12-inch scale, I think. I love the one of the Daredevils, I think, was just fire.
Thanks. Yeah, that was our Comic-Con item last year. Yeah, that was fun to work on. We got Joe Quesada to do the box, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was a great box too. Yeah, sweet.
Great box.
We all love a great box, don't we?
Don't we all?
What was the first G.I. Joe item you worked on then?
So the first G.I. Joe item, let me see.
Because was it a case of you like getting there and then going, right, I need to get involved with G.I. Joe somehow? Was it literally as soon as you got in, you were like, right, how do I get to G.I. Joe?
Yeah, I remember when I was at that vendor fair and you kind of have a table set up in the big, Main Street area, and all the designers come out and they talk to you and stuff. And I remember I got in touch with John Warden and he was talking to me about stuff like, oh, you know, would you want to work on this? And right away he gave me work, and that was like the second year of 25th anniversary. So it was 2008, I believe.
Right.
I was there.
Yeah.
Or 2007. I did some early work on some 25th anniversary figures, but I would say then my real work on Joe happened when I was his intern in 2010. That was like when really, really cool stuff happened. He was on the second year of Pursuit of Cobra.
Nice.
So it's like I got to work on a lot of those cool figures. Me and him tag teamed Low Light, which was a lot of fun. So I got to do all the accessories and how that backpack opens. And
the tiniest bullet in the universe.
And exactly. So I was kind of a young, naive designer, and I was like, I don't know if this can be done. And sure enough, Dave Proctor was like, yeah, we can do all this. I'm like, great.
Yeah, I can sculpt something really minuscule.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Dave Proctor.
And then, I worked on a lot of the Renegade stuff because they were vamping up for that. But a lot of that Renegade stuff got canceled that I worked on, but it was still really fun to work on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like really, really early Joe stuff besides my freelance stuff for 25th anniversary.
In terms of all of the different kind of Joe-based stuff you've worked on, what's been like your favorite item to work on? I know that's probably like saying who's your favorite child, but like I don't care. I want to ask the question.
No, it's an easy answer.
Nice.
It was last year's Missile Command headquarters.
Nice.
That to me is like when I look in my office now. Granted, I have all my Marvel stuff up and everything I've worked on for the past 5.5 years.
Yeah.
But it's like that set is front and center right in front of my computer because that is my all-time favorite set. Now a lot of design, it wasn't like overly complex design work, it's just the timing of it, what it turned out to be, the reception of it, all of it was super, super awesome. I remember when Daryl first pitched me on it, he came to my office and he said, hey, I got an idea, what do you think of reissuing the Missile Command headquarters? And I think I just jumped out of my chair and gave him a high five because it was just genius.
Awesome.
And I said, yeah, and right away we started getting together, working on stuff, and got some strings pulled so that I was able to do that item, and we did it, and I couldn't have been happier with how it came out, and to see it sell out like the second day of Comic-Con was like such a win. I was like, wow, it went over with fans. It was just so cool to do, and just everything that came with it that whole year. Like once I met like Ron Rudat and being at HasCon and having people talk to me about it at HasCon was super cool. So that set is definitely my favorite thing Joe related that I worked on.
That's what I was going to say. I've heard some of these stories already when we spoke at HasCon at the dinner, and it was when we were talking about the fact that you'd worked on some of the 25th and then some of the Pursuit of Cobra, and that's when I was kind of going, oh no way, and I was getting all kind of like fanboyish. But no, that's really cool, man. And something I wanted to actually talk about regarding that set. Yes, it feels like there's a simplicity to it, but at the same time, all of that stuff has to be redesigned. The box art's different. The actual missile command like the missile base itself, like there isn't cardboard anymore. It's that kind of different stock, isn't it? And it's like printed a different way, and there's different elements to it, so all that has to be redone. So and the box is aged to make it look vintage as well. So there's a lot going into that even though you say was a simple thing and timing and all that kind of stuff, I still feel like that's a pretty impressive thing to do in such a short period of time.
Yeah, the team did an excellent job. It was a lot of it has to go to our graphics team for really recreating that box. We had Daryl brought in his set, so I was able to actually look at it and scan in the pieces so that I could recreate the design work of it. And I said when we first started, I said I wanted to keep it exactly the way Ron had designed it. All the weird hoses and tubes and vents and things like that. It was such an odd design and weird perspective, and I said it's got to stay this, but I'll just do it so that it looks like it was done in Photoshop and it's a little more modern. So we did it that way. Everything is exactly the same scale as the original. So that if you can't afford the original, you can have this one and it can fit your 3 3/4 inch Joes. Now, granted, it does come with modern guys and they do fit on the chairs. Not great, but they fit. So we kept that the same. When I designed the figures, I wanted the figures to actually look just like how they were issued in '82. So it was a lot of parts combinations to do that. The file card holder is the same exact size. We did the the file cards the same way, and then the graphics team took that box and they said, yeah, we could do this, and they did it exactly how it was, and it was so awesome.
Amazing. Yeah, big shout out to yourself and all of the guys that were involved in that. Yeah, brilliant. And also Daryl for kind of bringing it up in the first place.
Yeah,
Genius.
The godfather of it all.
Daryl is the godfather. I need to do some sort of Photoshop of that now. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. How did let's get talking about the controversial topic of the figure subscription service 8.0 with the Joe Club. So before we get into the details of it, and I do obviously I've got stuff that I want to actually talk to you about as well in kind of more detail, but how did the actual job come around? Was it a case of you pushing for the chance to work on some more product before it kind of goes a bit dark for an undetermined period?
Yeah, it all kind of started because when I went on to the Joe team in, that was 2016, I was working on the Missile Command headquarters, and we were getting ready for, at the time, what would have been the third movie for 2018.
Yeah.
But we had started early stuff, and then whatever was going on with Paramount, things got pushed out. So then my stint on Joe really only lasted about 6 months or 8 months because with the movie coming out, they needed my resources back on Marvel.
Got you.
But during that time, I was working with Mark Weber, and he was kind of, very good man, good friend of mine. He was kind of the liaison to the club. So he would get in, the character selections and the builds, and he would approve all that. And he kind of brought me in and said, hey, look at these things, check them out. What do you think? And I would give him my comments, and then he would pass them along. And then I said to Mark, I said, hey, I got some builds. Could you send these to the club if they ever want to, use some? And then Mark, was let go from the company, unfortunately. And then I said to Daryl, I've gotten to know the guys in the club. Would you like me to kind of be the liaison? And he said, that'd be great. So nice. I was handling that, which was awesome because I was able to see this stuff firsthand. And then little by little, I was trying to ease my foot in the door, like, hey, you guys need help with anything? And, so first I did a couple, head inputs for them and a couple builds, that General Hawk with the jetpack was one of the first ones I had sent to them years back, and
that's a nice one. I love that.
I can't wait to see that one in person.
That actually that will bring me to another question later on, but I absolutely love the build of that figure. I really enjoy. So, but we'll come to my question on detail in a second.
Yeah, I was doing little by little. I was doing more and more, and then FSS 7, I got to do the builds and deco for a good amount of the figures, and then I reached out to Dave Lane, and I kind of said to him hey, if I don't know if you guys have gone through character selection, but if you need some help for FSS 8, let me know. And then he was like, actually, yeah, we want to bring you in to help me out. So me and him kind of got on a call, and I had my list, he had his list, he had what they've been getting feedback on, and we sat down for on a call for about an hour and talked through characters and ironed it all out, and then we decided who was going to work on which ones, and that's kind of how it happened. And I was like, wow, I got to have a big part in the last wave of club figures, which is a big honor for me, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that must be quite a nice feeling to have that kind of connection to the last thing before it does go a little bit bleak.
I know. Fingers crossed. I know.
I'm going to kind of hint at that all throughout this interview in the hope that you go, don't worry, there'll be something coming. But I'm just kidding. Actually, related to that General Hawk thing you mentioned a second ago, brings me on to my next question, and that is, now I know you work on the builds for the figures, obviously. How much control do you have over the deco, or is that mostly dealt with by the club?
So the figures that I've worked on for them, I'll provide them a build sheet, and then I actually am one of those weird designers. If you ask designers at Hasbro, do you like working on deco sheets? They're like, no. I love working on deco sheets because I feel like it's how the figure's actually going to look in the end. When I give them my build formulas, I was giving them deco sheets, and it's like I got my Pantone book, so it's easy for me to just pull it all together. And they've appreciated that I've given them deco sheets. There were a few instances where they changed a couple things over the last couple FSS waves, but overall they've been keeping a lot of it as it is. I think on Fast Draw they tweaked some of the colors. On Gridiron they removed the swatch of color somewhere, but overall it's been the same as what I give them.
Yeah.
But also it's we're seeing the digital mock-ups, so well, I'm not going to sit there with my Pantone book and when I get the figure in hand and say, oh, well, they changed this color. But as long as it looks,
can you do a list?
It looks good, that's
do a list for me, and then we'll post it.
Yeah, right.
Actually, it's a minor thing, but when that General Hawk popped up, I was like, oh, that's fire, and I really liked it. My only concern was with the color, and I kind of looked at it and thought, but it's a Photoshop mock-up. They're not usually that. In terms of like what you see on the plastic in the end is probably, I'm sure you'd have used the Pantone color from the original. Would you have done that, or did you do that?
I kind of looked at it when I tend to do the builds. I look at it like I'm designing the way Warden did for 30th anniversary. He took figures that were modern and had a vintage flair to them, like Lifeline and Sci-Fi and Airtight.
Yeah.
So when I do the builds, I want to keep it that way. I want it to have. I don't want it to look exactly like the vintage figure, but I also don't want it to be so far removed that people are like, well, that's okay, it's different. But so with that, I think I looked at it and it was a while ago, but I think I tweaked a couple things, but overall I kept it pretty much close to what that figure was in 91 or 91.
It's a gorgeous looking figure. I mean, I can't wait to get that one. I can't wait to get that one. He was one of those characters. I love that version of Hawk, right? Because there's so much, like, I don't know, just so many interesting elements to it. Like the kind of, you take the helmet off and he's got that kind of leather cap kind of thing with the fancy hair. I love fancy hair figures, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Now the thing that was a bummer about the mock-up, that when the club shows it, and the same thing with Payload, is they don't show the figure with the helmet off.
I know, yeah.
So everyone was asking me like, well, what head's under there? What head's under there? And a lot of people knew it was kind of a given, but when I saw that Resolute Duke head, I was like, that's a total Hawk head. Yeah. So that was a no-brainer to use that one for that figure. So, and it'll be great to see it because that figure's got blonde hair and black ear things around his head, so it'd be cool to see him with brown hair and the brownish orange leather on him to match Hawk. That'll be really cool.
I think everyone expected that head, but at the same time, because the club don't reveal that information, I'm actually quite surprised. Have you said that before on anywhere else? Have you kind of explained that it's the Resolute head anywhere else?
I can't remember, but
I'll just say it's an exclusive anyway. I'll just say it's an exclusive.
Yeah, say it's an exclusive.
We take what we can get here at the
maybe Savage will call me up after this and be like, did you say what head was in there?
You're fired. What? You can't touch me. Right. So I would be the first to say that I think some of the characters chosen by the club for this final FSS were a little ambitious without a large amount of new tooling. And this is something that we did have a discussion about somewhat after some of the reveals came out when we were kind of talking about it. I mean, something you had no control over necessarily, but I mean, how difficult was it to find builds for figures, say, like Fast Draw and Payload, etc.?
So the funny thing is, like, when me and Dave were having that conversation where we're picking out the characters, he's like, oh, we're getting a lot of feedback for Payload, Fast Draw, like, can you do them? And even if I had a rough build in mind, or if I didn't, I said yes anyway, because I was like, I could figure out something.
No, you do it, don't you? It's
but I just didn't want to pass up doing the figure and then be like, oh, there actually was a good build. So I just said yes to the hard stuff and said, hey, I'll tackle the hard stuff. And there were ones that they were pushing for. There were ones that I was pushing for. And, like Fast Draw, Payload, those were like general consensus ones. Like, yes, we have to have those ones in there.
Yeah.
So they were tough. Payload, the funny thing is, and I'll have to tell Dave this when I actually see him at JoeCon, we had a conversation about it, and he said, Payload will be kind of hard to do. You can't really do him like he was. So what if we did him like he's in a jumpsuit, like a pre-flight jumpsuit?
Oh, nice.
Like sometimes you see the astronauts like doing their photo ops or walking the platform, and they have like that weird blue jumpsuit or bluish gray jumpsuit. He said, all right, what if we do it like that? And I just kind of said, yeah, but I knew that I was going to go vintage with it. Yeah. And I remember the first figure I was working on was Recoil. Yeah. The listeners can't see it, but you could see it. In my Joe room, I have shelves that line all 3 walls that have every figure made except for the shitty era in the early 2000s. But
don't tell James Kavanaugh that.
Oh, I tell him that all the time. He hates me for it. But that's another conversation. I was looking just scanning the figures for parts, and all of a sudden I came to the Data Viper, and I was like, that's payload. I was like, that's how I'm gonna do payload. I didn't realize I would stick so closely to Data Viper, and only tweak a few things, but I knew from the beginning there, I was like, oh, that's it. That's how we're gonna do vintage. So when Dave saw it, he goes, wow, I thought you were gonna do the jumpsuit, and you did the vintage one. It's like, yeah.
You look the rebellious designer,
right?
I kind of must admit, payload looks like almost as if it was because it's got the vintage kind of connection there, but it kind of to me is almost like a Pursuit of Cobra upgrade payload.
Exactly. Exactly. That's always what I go for. I felt that way with Recoil. I felt that way with payload. So I'm glad that you said that, because that's kind of what I go for.
Would you have preferred the club to maybe have put some tooling dollars towards some of these, just to kind of give it, like maybe like the helmet for Recoil? I know you kind of said about the Pursuit of Cobra-esque style Recoil, but things like that, do you think that would have maybe, I don't know, help bridge a gap for, say, Farstraw, for example, which has caused... It's been quite a controversial reveal, Farstraw, hasn't it?
Yeah, Farstraw, I'm sure we'll get to in a minute. But, you're always going to want tooling. Even on Marvel, it's like I talk to my engineer, and the first question I ask is, how much money do I have?
Yeah.
What can I do? Because you always want to do a figure from scratch, obviously, but... I don't know. Part of me kind of likes having no tooling, because then it's a little bit of a challenge, and it's also like fun. It's like I get to go through all these parts and see what works and see what kind of figure I can kit bash and make work. And it's such a huge library. You don't think that by putting A with K times Z plus H equals Q.
Yeah.
But it all kind of works out in the end sometimes. Or for most people, some people hate the builds, but
okay, so let's talk about that quickly. How have you felt? I've noticed actually online in general, Payload got a really good reaction. Bulletproof has had a good reaction. Bushido's had a really good reaction. Red Laser got a massive that's been really positive, and that's something that we kind of have to mention on the show. It's an action force at heart. And in terms of Red Laser, was that an easier build for you, or did you try thousands of leg combos for him?
Yes and no. I pushed really hard for Red Laser, just so you know that.
Thank you.
I love the Action Force stuff. I text you all the time, like when I get Action Force stuff.
Yeah.
But I love it. I think the figures were just so unique and such cool versions of them, like Jackal and Laser. It's like they're Cobra Commander and Destro, but they're like cool little versions of them.
Yeah.
So when I did it, I was like, well, obviously I'm going to use the ultimate Cobra Commander body because it's such a great body.
Yeah. It's like the perfect Cobra Commander,
flawless.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Only took 60 versions to get there.
Hey man, they got there in the end. But then I got to the legs, and I was like, oh, how am I going to do the legs? Because if you think about legs, whose legs are there that have the high riding boots? It's, Red Star and animated Cobra Commander, which I think are the same legs, but they're kind of dated.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan of them, and they had been used a lot, and I was like, well, I wanted something a little more unique, and I forgot how I ended up coming to Destro, but I was like, wait, he's got good legs under that skirt. So I took the skirt off, and I said, perfect. Now, when I put it together, I thought that the legs were a hair long, which I've seen some comments about, but at the end of the day, I'll take the unique legs that are hair long over, crappier legs.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a challenge, but at the end of the day, I got the look that I wanted. Yeah, he looks really cool.
What blows me away about the Red Laser figure, the original and this one, is that even that slight deco change on the helmet is enough to completely hide the Cobra Commander build. Because when I was a kid, up till about, I don't know, it's embarrassing, but probably into my 20s, I didn't know Red Laser was a Cobra Commander repaint. And because it just, I'd never put two and two together. I actually thought he was a Cobra Trooper rejigged, so I hadn't really paid much attention to him really. And
gotcha.
And then when it came up in the list, we even said this we did a little news burst where Adam and I think Brian or Paddy, we talked about the FSS kind of character lineup. And there was a bit of trepidation with some of the characters because we knew, like we spoke to Mark Webber before that, and he'd mentioned that he didn't want to do Fast Draw and he didn't want to do, I think Hardball was another one. without new tooling. So he'd mentioned that like, you know, verbatim, and so we were kind of thinking, oh God, I wonder how they're going to do that. So when the red laser thing came up, we were like, well, if that head's done right, if it's decoed really well, it doesn't really matter, it will work. And I think red laser for me is the standout in a way for two reasons. One, it's Action Force, Red Shadows, and two, it just looks really impressive. My other favourite, actually, I just want to mention, is Bushido, which I think, like, again, I would have... this is no slight, really, to you or the club or whatever, but I would have, I think, preferred a smaller helmet for him and Budo, the one in the previous SSS.
Yeah.
Just so you don't... Because it's huge on
it
that
is,
kind of smaller
helmet,
body. But, like, from the neck down, exquisite. And yeah, I love that figure.
Nice. Yeah, that was a fun one to do also. I did the input drawing for the face mask, new face mask that goes with that helmet. But yeah, it was a little unfortunate that we didn't have a smaller helmet. You blame John Warden for making such a big samurai helmet.
Well, I think it works on that retaliation Budo, doesn't it? Because the armor kind of fills out a bit, and it looks more ceremonial, and it looks a little bit more fancy. But yeah, I mean, the limitations you're working with there, I think it's a really, really awesome figure overall.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a fun one. I mean, I'm a sucker for the Ninja Force stuff, so any chance I could do one is pretty awesome for me.
And we've also been told that the 13th is Ninja Force. Now, you don't have to tell us any information, but have you been asked to do that figure? Or have you done that figure?
I did that figure already.
Right, I'll be texting you after this. I'm kidding. NDAs.
No,
NDAs.
The funny I've gotten tons of texts since that came out saying, "Oh, it's this character. Oh, it's this character. Oh, it's this character." And I'm like, guys, there are, if you think about it, there are 13 Ninja Force figures that have not been done yet.
Yeah.
So everyone thinks like, "Oh, it's so easy. It could be him or him." But I'm like, well. So just, you know, I don't want to say anything more than that, but
we're gonna have to wait till that sixth delivery when we get all three.
Which they should. I mean, from what I heard, the FSS 7 is going to start shipping in May, and then we should get 8, you know, shortly thereafter. So that'll be nice when that starts shipping, seeing all that stuff. Because I also give them these builds. I see the mock-ups, and then I don't see the figure until they're done. So I'm just as excited to see them as everyone else is.
Right. Well, let me finish on this one. Which of the figures out of this final group are you most proud of yourself?
It's tough. I mean, this wave in particular, I just had a lot of attachment to it because I kind of got to help from the start, and, you know, it's the last one. Yeah. You know, you want to kind of go out with a bang. You know, when I was talking to Dave about it, you know, they wanted to put their best foot forward and really kind of end with the best possible figures. And so it's kind of tough. I put so much into every one. Yeah. You know, and that was kind of my gripe that I had with the people's comments about Fast Draw, and I went on another podcast and kind of had a rant about it. But
shout out to Just Another Joe Show, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where I guess I take it a little personal because I put so much into doing this stuff. Like, you see my room. It's like I'm not just a guy just designing toys. It's like G.I. Joe is part of my life. I have a room in my house that's dedicated to G.I. Joe. So it's so important for me to make sure that this stuff is done and done well. And, you know, I know you can't please everyone, but I try really hard to do that. And, you know, it's a little frustrating, but, you know, Fast Draw definitely took the longest. I worked on him for a solid week. Yeah. But my favorite is probably Payload because I think he just came out the best. Yeah. He just everything, his deco, the look of him, just all came together using the Leoric head from the Comic-Con set.
Yes, I knew it was the Leoric head. I said that, and people said, no, it's this head, it's that head. I'm going back to all those comments that were made on my Leoric head comment, and I'm going to say, it's Leoric's head. Sorry, I needed to get that out.
A lot of people thought, like, because you kind of forget about that set, because it was kind of a one-off. Yeah. But you just think of, like, the normal, but that head was perfect. Yeah. So that was the head that I used. And so Payload, I would say, but just barely, because there's a lot of them I like. Recoil, I love. He was the first one I worked on. I thought he came together nicely. Bushido looks awesome.
Big time.
You know, my draw to red laser, like I said. But yeah, payload just by an inch.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bobby, for coming on and chatting with me, chatting FSS, chatting G.I. Joe. I appreciate it very much.
Anytime, brother, anytime.
That's it for this installment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my wonderful guest, Bobby Vala. See you next time, and as always, full Vala. I mean Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of these platforms with feedback, questions or to say, who do you think you are? A serious operation now? No, not even close. Look out for more of these news bursts that we are posting on the Facebook page from now on. Full Force.